Okay, hi everyone. My name is Dr. Kareen Hall Brown, and I want to welcome you to Nature's Way of Healing. Disclaimer, whatever information you obtain from this presentation, it was not intended to be used for diagnosis of any health problem, treatment of any health problem, or cure for any health problem. And before you make any major adjustment to your lifestyle, it's always best to consult your general practitioner. Now, in this first episode, which we will have many more, it's the beginning of a series of presentation that we will do in Nature's Way of Healing. This presentation is on the respiratory system. Now, I choose to start with the respiratory system because of the season when we're starting in the winter. And this is the time when the respiratory system becomes more problematic than other systems. So we're starting out with the respiratory system in this particular presentation. We will be doing an overview of the respiratory system, and then we're going to look at how we generally care for the system, and then we will do some demonstration of how we could drain mucus from the respiratory system. We will be doing 2 demonstrations of how we could do that. And that is what we'll do in this first or this first half of the setup. And going forward, we will look at specifics of the respiratory system, specific disease that affects the respiratory system, and how we can apply nature's way of applying it for remedy or healing to this system. Now, the overview of the respiratory system. So, the respiratory system is one of the systems that I think is considered most ignored. It is taken for granted. And this is one of the systems that we cannot live without. Once it stops working, we are cut off. It is that system that takes in oxygen from the outside, which we cannot produce for ourselves, and bring out carbon dioxide. So that makes it a channel of elimination, and eliminating carbon dioxide was a toxin which would build up in our body and has no other way of leaving the body. So that's in a nutshell what the respiratory system do. Now, how does the respiratory system work? The respiratory system is made up of the nose, the sinuses, the mouth, the throat, the voice box, the windpipe, the diaphragm, the lungs, the bronchioles, the bronchioles, and the air sac, which is called the alveoli. The alveoli. And the alveoli is that active unit, one of the most important part of the respiratory system, because this is where we actually have the exchange of air, or the displacement of oxygen and carbon dioxide as it is diffused into the oxygen diffused into and the carbon dioxide diffused out. So this is the active unit, one of the active unit in the respiratory system. Now we take in air, and our air is mixed. It's not like air that is pure oxygen we're taking in. The air we take in, it has other things beside oxygen, or other gases beside oxygen. We inhale it, it goes through the nose, and it enters and it goes down the throat, or the windpipe, down the throat, down through the windpipe, and then it goes into the bronchi, and then the bronchiole, which is where it actually enters the lung. And once it enters the lung, it goes straight into the alveoli. So when we inhale, we're taking in oxygen with other things, but on its way down, the air on the way down will naturally be warmed by the body temperature, because cold air cannot enter the respiratory system or enters the lung. So it doesn't go into the lung if its temperature is not at body temperature. So on its way down, it is warmed. And once it's warm, there is that transfer of carbon dioxide that is coming from the body, that is produced by the body, not because it circulates around the body, but because it's produced from the food that we consume that has a high level of carbon. So that carbon is released and mixed with the waste from the rest of it, and we exhale that via exhaling or respiration. And the oxygen goes in and it circulates throughout the body. So that is in a nutshell what happens in the respiratory system. Now, the respiratory system is such a critical organ. You know, the surface area of the respiratory system can, when it's spread out, it is about the size of a tennis court. It is that big because of the amount of surface area that is necessary for absorption of oxygen. So we could say it extends to the size of a tennis court. That's how big it is. Okay? Now, on a daily basis, we exhale at least a half a liter of water in that process of exhalation, because when we respire, we take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide and water. So we release at least half a liter of water every single day. Okay? Now, male, their breathing rate is much less, is less than female. The rate at which male breathe is very slow compared to the rate at which female breathe. Okay? Now, other interesting things about the respiratory system. Once we take in the air via the nostril, it is contaminated with a lot of stuff. Inside of our nostril, we have some HAIR, which helps to filter the air that goes down in our respiratory tract. Now, that air is filtered and warm, as I said, and it enters, and this is where we get our air or oxygen from to sustain our lives. Our lives cannot be sustained without oxygen, and we look at it on the surface as just breathing. But life exists at a cellular level. All life exists within our cells. And it is within the cells that the root of respiration rarely occurs. We look at breathing as just taking in air and releasing carbon dioxide, but it's a little bit deeper than that, because in order for us to obtain any form of energy, we need oxygen within our system to break down our food that we consume, or the nutrients we get from the food, to break it down in order for us to obtain the energy. And this process does occur in the mitochondria within the cell. So the heart of all the activity that occurs within our body must get its energy from the mitochondria of the cell. And that is where respiration occurs. And this gives energy to the brain. It gives energy to all the activities that occur within the cell and outside of the cell. So respiration is the root of our of obtaining energy. So taking in air is one part of it, and exhaling carbon dioxide is the superficial way of looking at the respiratory system. Now, we take it for granted, and people would say, oh, we cannot live without oxygen. But why can't we live without oxygen? The cellular activity that occurs is the reason why. The mitochondria utilizing this oxygen to make energy is the primary reason why we cannot live without oxygen. It's not because if we don't breathe in and breathe out, oxygen, we are going to just be cut off. It's a little bit deeper than that. And I just want us to understand the essence of where it comes from. Okay? Now, when we inhale, one of the big things that people mistakenly look at, we look at the diaphragm, and people talk about inhalation and exhalation. And I just want to clarify inhalation and exhalation. When we take in, we breathe, we take in here, we inhale. What happens? The diaphragm pulls down. It pulls down, and the air, there is more space for the lungs to expand. When we exhale, the diaphragm moves up to push the air out of the lung. So that's one piece that I just want to clarify. And I'm going to take for the next couple of minutes, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the general things that we can do to take care of the respiratory system. And exercising is primary. It's one of the big things that strengthen the muscles in the alveoli, which is the functional unit of the respiratory system. Exercise strengthens that. And the inner wall of the alveoli is made from lipoprotein, and that muscle is strengthened so that it builds up your lung capacity and your vital capacity when you exercise. So exercising is one of the big things. For this time of the year, adding some green to our house. The plants, as we know, produce carbon dioxide, oxygen. Even from the lights inside, the plants are able to produce oxygen, and that will help to filter the air within our houses, so we get a little bit more oxygen on the inside, because for the most part in North America, we're locked up in the house in the winter. So plants still do carry out photosynthesis and produce oxygen in the winter time. So adding some green plants to your house, in your rooms, wherever, that would add oxygen to the air. Eating well. Our diet is critical. Now, we need to consume foods that are rich in vitamin A, vitamin C, and vitamin E, and minerals such as selenium, potassium, magnesium, and those minerals are essential to maintaining a healthy respiratory system. Drinking a lot of water will help in inflating the alveoli, because some people, when they get sick, the alveoli deflates, and that's because of they're dehydrated. In essence, it's not enough water being taken in, and that water helps to build the blood, and the blood circulate around the vessels of the alveoli, which result in the exchange of carbon dioxide for oxygen, and that also can cause issues with our lung. Something as simple as washing our hands is also very critical. If we don't wash our hands we use for everything become contaminated with germs such as bacteria and viruses. And these are some of the things that can contaminate us, and they can enter the respiratory system via the mouth, or even just by getting near to the nostril. You inhale it and it contaminates the whole respiratory tract, and thus, if your immune system is not strong enough, then it's going to result in you becoming sick with the cold or the flu or pneumonia or any of the above disease that affect the respiratory system. And the key and most important is to stay away from smoke. People who smoke tobacco, that is one of the fastest way of contaminating the respiratory system, or being around those that are smokers. So secondhand smoking is also something that we need to be cognizant of and make sure that we stay away from that kind of any kind of exposure that involves nicotine, because it is very, very dangerous. Okay, and filtering the air within our house. We could use an air cleaner. If we're living in an environment that is very closed and locked in, we can use our air filter to filter the air. And that is generally some of the ways that we can take care of our respiratory system. And for this segment, I just want to thank you for watching. And in our next segment, we're going to demonstrate some practical ways of draining mucus, which is one of the things that affect the respiratory system, more so this time of the year when it's cold, or anytime the respiratory system become infected, it is full with mucus. So that's what we're going to look at in the next segment of this. Thank you for watching Nature's Way of Healing.